One of the things I get asked a lot is how much money do I need to purchase a house, right? And very loaded question because there's, again, a lot of factors into that you need a really good lender to help you determine, a good agent that can walk you through different options. But, I don't hear it as much anymore. I think in today's day and age, most people realize you don't need 20% down to purchase a house. But that was something, especially early on in my career, I did hear some. But realistically, let's just kind of break this up by down payment.
Mhm.
What are the different loan programs, and how much money do you really need to be able to put down on a house?
There are several zero down or low down programs. Usually people are surprised that there's actually, oftentimes, depending on their situation, more than one of
Oh yeah,
those. So
yeah,
you have VA financing, which you're familiar with being a veteran.
yep,
You can do it as little as 0% down, and we can get into closing costs on prepaid. You can oftentimes ask the seller for that, but I always refer that back to my realtor partner because based on the price point, if there's room there, to ask for closing costs and
yeah,
prepays to be covered.
yeah,
You have MHDC, which is through the state of Missouri. That's for a first-time home buyer, where they can get down payment assistance for the 3.5% and do an FHA loan. We have another program called Essex. So if you're not a first-time home buyer or you make too much for MHDC, which that is a thing, believe it or
oh
not, there
yeah,
are programs. MHDC, I haven't talked about USDA, which is zero down, but those have income thresholds where you actually can be overqualified depending on what your family household income is. And in which case, it doesn't mean you can't get financing. You just can't use those particular programs. And I'm specifically referring to MHDC and USDA, where if you make over a certain amount as a household, you don't qualify for those programs anymore. You have to look at other programs. And then there's a lot of low down, FHA is a very common, not just first time home buyer. That's a misconception. A lot
yeah.
of people think the only time you can do an FHA loan is if you're a first time home buyer, and that's not true at all. And with that program, that's 3.5% down.
That's typically when people say, "Well, I want to do a first-time home buyer loan." Typically, they're meaning an FHA loan is
Yeah.
what they've heard, right? Because there's no
Yeah.
singular first-time home buyer loan anymore. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
there's not a government loan that says this is just for first-time home buyers only, and that I think in the past there was, but that has not existed in quite some time. It's more of the FHA is what most people are
Yeah.
referring
And
to by
even,
that. Yeah.
USDA, you don't have to be a first time home buyer.
Right.
That's another misconception. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
One really quick thing on the down payment assistance programs. So if there's a reason you need to do MHDC or Essex, one thing that my team really carefully goes through is we ask you, is there a family member that could maybe give you a gift? Is there an old K that's just sitting there that you haven't touched in a while? Are you sure that you don't have a down payment somewhere? And I bring that up because those are really good programs. But a lot of times, if you do have the ability to either get a gift from family or maybe to tap into an old retirement account, or maybe there's another source that you have, I would just encourage you to run it by me before you liquidate or transfer anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing the normal FHA program compared to some of the down payment assistance program, depending on the person's situation, can actually be a better deal.
Yeah.
If they just don't have the down payment, then those programs are a blessing.
Yeah. One other thing I want to mention, that I see a lot: conventional loans, kind of your standard boilerplate loan. You can do as little, it used to be as little as 5, but I see a lot of 3% now.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
I know there are programs you can kind of stack on top of that to cover even
Yes.
the 3%. And so there's
That's right.
there's a lot of ways to get into a home with very little cash out of pocket.
Conventional now allows you to do as little as 3% down as long as one of the borrowers, so it's got to be at least one of the borrowers on the loan has not owned a house in the last 36 months. And the general definition for most first-time homebuyer programs is that if you are a borrower on the loan and have not owned or had interest in real estate in the last 36 months, you're
Yeah.
oftentimes defined now as a first-time homebuyer.